Everyone keeps saying the same thing. China controls rare earth metals. China is weaponizing rare earths. The West must break free from China. Governments are spending billions. New mines are opening. New processing plants are announced every year. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most countries will fail to counter China's rare earth dominance, and in the end, it won't matter nearly as much as people think. Let's break down why China can't really be beaten, why others will struggle, and why rare earths are massively overhyped. First of all, what are rare earth metals and why are they important? Rare earth metals are a group of 17 chemical elements in the periodic table. Despite the name, they are not actually rare. They're just hard to extract in pure form. They are primarily used to produce powerful magnets, electric vehicles, and components for military and space technology. So how did China manage to dominate the rare earths market? It wasn't done in a few months. It took years of planning and trillions of dollars to get here. China has some of the world's largest rare earth reserves, especially Bayan-Obo in Inner Mongolia. These deposits were identified and developed earlier than in most countries. Deng Xiaoping famously said, "The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths." Now China mines 70% of the world's rare earths. Other countries, especially the USA, recognize that China's dominance is a risk. At any time, they can halt rare earth exports. We saw this when Trump declared the tariff war, so other countries are trying to counter it in several ways. But it's slow and expensive. And honestly, rare earths aren't worth the hype. Yes, rare earths are important, as most of the technology depends on these metals, and they're strategically important, but economically and environmentally, rare earths are a nightmare. Most people imagine rare earth metals like gold or oil. You dig, you get a lot, you get rich. That's completely wrong. Gold and oil are highly valued and concentrated, whereas rare earths are scattered. Often less than 1 to 5% of the ore, sometimes below 1%, contains rare earths, which means you must build more mines, dig, crush, and process huge amounts of rock to get tiny amounts of rare earths. This is itself an environmental hazard. Tons of toxic waste are created, and the cleanup costs will cost more money on top of the large initial capital. This is why China's choice was unusual. China didn't dominate because rare earths are amazing. China dominated because it accepted pollution, accepted low profits, thought long-term strategy mattered more than short-term returns. European countries with their high environmental regulations can never do this. Let's assume that the US or India, with their low environmental regulations, stood up to the challenge. Even then, mining rare earths is the easy part. You heard me right. Mining is the easy part. Refining these rare earths is the hard part. These rare earths don't come in pure form, so you have to refine them. This is where China actually dominates. China mines 70% of global rare earths, but refines more than 90%. So even if these countries could mine, they have to go to China to refine it. So why not build refineries? You can, but this is easier said than done. Rare earth refineries aren't like oil refineries. You have to make dozens to hundreds of mini chemical plants, use solvent extractions with hundreds of separation steps, and separate elements that are chemically almost identical. Not only will this cost trillions of dollars, but you also need chemical scientists with decades of experience. So how did China do it? China didn't do it in a few years. It took them decades of trial and error to come to this point. China has courses for chemical scientists only on rare earths. Now you probably think these rare earths parity generate trillions of dollars for China. Well, I hate to say it to you, even with all these steps and all the environmental pollution, rare earths are actually really cheap. With an $18 trillion economy, China roughly makes 10 to 15 billion from their sales globally. This is why economists say rare earths are a net loss rather than a gain. In fact, it's easier to be dependent on China than to make your own. So if it's less profitable, why does China do it? Because even though rare earths aren't profitable themselves, the finished products like EVs and magnets are. So if your country isn't producing EVs, magnets, batteries, and isn't worried about China's dominance, you should not even consider this, especially in this economy. Even the strategic added advantage, often overhyped across the media. This doesn't mean China doesn't have an advantage. China's advantage mainly comes from political leverage, rather than the metal itself. Rare earths are used in really small amounts, even in military equipments. They are used in a few kilograms, and these metals can be stockpiled for years. Even if China stops supply chains, this will hurt China's exporters too, and it will make other countries to adapt faster and will loosen China's long-term leverage, because even though imperfect alternatives exist. So what can countries do to counter China? Honestly, not much. China holds absolute dominance over rare earths, and they are not afraid to weaponize it. The best thing to do is stockpile as much as possible and don't get on China's bad side. Rare earths didn't make China rich. They made China important in supply chains. What are your thoughts on this? Tell me in the comments.